Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? In the early 1800s, the Cherokee scholar Sequoyah created the first script or writing system for an indigenous language in the United States. Because it represented the sounds of spoken Cherokee so accurately, his script was easy to learn and thus quickly achieved blank use. By 1830, over 90% of the Cherokee people could read and write it. So a key point here is that by 1830, over 90% of the Cherokee people can read and write using this script. So the word in this blank must highlight how this script achieved wide usage. A. Widespread. This seems to be correct because widespread highlights how this script achieved wide usage, and the fact that 90% of Cherokee people can read and write using it supports this, so A seems to be correct. B. Careful. Careful implies caution or concern, but this wouldn't make sense in the context of this sentence, so B is incorrect. C. Unintended. This is incorrect because the script was easy to learn, and by 1830, 90% of Cherokee people could read and write using it, so this wasn't an unintended use, it was intended use, so C is incorrect. D. Infrequent. This is incorrect because infrequent implies that there was a rare usage of the script, but because there's over 90% of Cherokee people could read and write using it, it wasn't an infrequent use, it was a frequent use. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is A. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? Like the 1945 play it reimagines Federico Garcia Lorca's The House of Bernarda Alba, Marcus Gardley's 2014 play The House That Will Not Stand prominently features women. In both plays, the all-female cast blank an array of female characters, including a strong mother and several daughters dealing with individual struggles. So the word that best fits the blank would highlight how the all-female cast is made up of an array of female characters. So choice A says engulfs. This is incorrect because engulfs means encloses or overwhelms, but the all-female cast doesn't enclose or overwhelm an array of female characters. So A is incorrect. B. Encourages. Encourages means inspires with hope or courage, but the all-female cast doesn't inspire an array of female characters. So B is incorrect. C. Comprises. Comprises seems to be the correct answer because comprises means constitutes or is made up of, and the all-female cast is made up of an array of female characters, so C seems to be the correct answer. D. Provokes. This is incorrect because provokes means to incite, but the all-female cast doesn't incite an array of female characters, so D is incorrect, and the correct choice is C. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? During a 2014 archaeological dig in Spain, Vincent Lull and his team uncovered the skeleton of a woman from El Algar, an early Bronze Age society, buried with valuable objects signaling a high position of power. This finding may persuade researchers who have argued that Bronze Age societies were ruled by men to blank that women may have also held leadership roles. So the word that best fits here would highlight how researchers admitted that women also had held leadership roles. So choice A says wave. This is incorrect because wave means to refrain from insisting on something being observed, but in the context of this text this wouldn't make sense, so A is incorrect. B. Concede. This seems to be correct because concede means to accept or to admit, and this would make sense because it says that this finding may persuade researchers who have argued that Bronze Age societies were ruled by men to accept that women may have also held leadership roles, so B seems to be correct. C. Refute. This is incorrect because this would imply that Bronze Age societies were ruled only by men, but the evidence in the previous sentence highlights how women also held positions of power, so C is incorrect. D. Require. This is incorrect because require means to demand or to mandate, but in the context of this sentence, it wouldn't make sense. So D is incorrect. So the correct choice is B. As used in the text, what does the word endure most nearly mean? The following text is adapted from Oscar Wilde's 1895 play, The Importance of Being Earnest. Have we got to part? I am afraid so. It's a very painful parting. It is always painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable. So endure here means to bear or to withstand. And choice A says regret. This is incorrect because regret means to feel sorrow for, but here endure does not mean to feel sorrow for, so A is incorrect. B, persist. This is incorrect because while endure does and can mean persist, in the context of this passage it doesn't make sense, because it says the absence of old friends one can persist with equanimity, so this doesn't make sense, so B is incorrect. C, tolerate. This seems to be correct because endure can mean tolerate, and in the context of this passage it makes sense. The absence of old friends one can tolerate with equanimity. So C seems to be the correct answer. D, encourage. This doesn't make sense in the context of this passage because it would imply the absence of old friends one can encourage with equanimity. So D is incorrect. So the correct answer is C. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? The following text is from the 1924 poem Cycle by Darcy McNichol, who is a citizen of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. There shall be new roads wending, a new beating of the drum. Men's eye shall have fresh seeing, grey lives reprise their span. But under the new sun's being, completing when night began, there'll be the same backs bending, the same sad feet shall drum. When this night find its ending, and day shall have come. So the main idea here is that there's a positive and a negative, and that this repeats, and this is a repetitive cycle. And this positive is that there will be new roads wending and a new beating of the drum. The negative, the same backs bending and the same sad feet shall drum. So the answer choices should reflect this main idea. Answer choice A says, to consider how the repetitiveness inherent in human life can be both rewarding and challenging. This seems to be correct because it highlights the both positive and negative aspects, the rewarding part and the challenging part, and how this repeats. So A seems to be correct. B, to question whether activities completed at one time of day are more memorable than those completed at another time of day. This is incorrect because the text doesn't highlight whether activities completed at one time are more memorable than those completed at another time. So B is incorrect. C, to refute the idea that joy is a more commonly experienced emotion than sadness is. This is incorrect because the text doesn't discuss or compare how joy to sadness, and from the text it more shows how joy and sadness are more equal. So C is incorrect. D, to demonstrate how the experiences of individuals relate to the experiences of their communities. This is incorrect because the text doesn't talk about experiences of individuals compared to the experiences of their communities. So the correct answer is A. Which choice best describes the function of the underlined portion in the text as a whole? The following text is from Charlotte Fortin Grimm's 1888 poem, At Newport. Oh, deep delight to watch the gladsome waves, exultant leap upon the rugged rocks, ever repulsed, yet ever rushing on, filled with a life that will not know defeat, to see the glorious hues of the sky and sea, the distant snowy sails glide spirit-like into an unknown world, to feel the sweet enchantment of the sea thrill all the soul, clearing the clouded brain, making the heart leap joyous as its own bright singing waves. So these two lines describe the waves, describing them as being ever repulsed, yet ever rushing on, so that they're constantly moving forward, but they're always being stopped. So choice A says, it portrays the surroundings as an imposing and intimidating scene. This is incorrect because while it is describing as imposing, it isn't correct to describe it as intimidating, because intimidating has a negative connotation, but the whole scene is described positively. So A is incorrect. B, it characterizes the sea waves as relentless and enduring force. This seems to be correct because the two sentences do say that the sea waves are ever repulsed, yet ever rushing on, so this can be described as being relentless or enduring. So B seems to be the correct answer. C, It conveys the speaker's ambivalence about the natural world. This is incorrect because the two sentences describe the waves, not the speaker's feelings one way or another toward the natural world. So C is incorrect. D. It draws a connection between the sea's waves and the speaker's thoughts. This is incorrect because the two sentences simply describe the waves, not the speaker or his thoughts. So D is incorrect, and the correct choice is B. Which choice best describes the overall structure of the text? The following text is adapted from Afra Ben's 1689 novel, The Lucky Mistake. Atlanta and Ronaldo are neighbors who have been secretly exchanging letters through Charlotte, Atlanta's sister. Atlanta gave this letter to Charlotte, who immediately ran into the balcony with it, where she still found Ronaldo in a melancholy posture, leaning his head on his hand. She showed him the letter, but was afraid to toss it to him, for fear it might fall to the ground. So he ran and fetched a long cane, which he cleft at one end, and held it while she put the letter into the cleft, and stayed not to hear what he said to it. But never was man so transported with joy as he was at reading of this letter. It gives him new wounds, for to the generous nothing abides love so much as love. So option A says, it describes the delivery of a letter, and then portrays a character's happiness at reading that letter. This seems to be correct, because the first two sentences describe how the letter was delivered, and then the last sentence describes how the character felt after reading that letter. So A seems to be the correct choice. B. It establishes that a character is desperate to receive a letter, and then explains why another character has not yet written that letter. This is incorrect because although the character is desperate to receive a letter, the other character has written the letter, it's just being delivered. So B is incorrect. C. It presents a character's concerns about delivering a letter, and then details the contents of that letter. This is incorrect because the text doesn't detail the content of that letter. So C is incorrect. D. It reveals the inspiration behind a character's letter, and then emphasizes the excitement that another character feels upon receiving that letter. This is incorrect because in the text it doesn't discuss the inspiration behind a character's letter. It simply says that they wrote the letter and gave it to Charlotte. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is A. What choice best states the main idea of the text? The following text is adapted from Frances Hodgson Burnett's 1911 novel, The Secret Garden. Mary, a young girl, recently found an overgrown hidden garden. Mary is an odd, determined little person, and now she had something interesting to be determined about. She was very much absorbed, indeed. She worked and dug and pulled up weeds steadily, only becoming more pleased with her work every hour, instead of tiring of it. It seemed to her like a fascinating sort of play. So choice A says, Mary hides in the garden to avoid doing her chores. This is incorrect, because the text doesn't say that she hides in her garden, and neither does it say that she does it to avoid doing her chores. So A is incorrect. B. Mary is getting bored with pulling up so many weeds in the garden. This is incorrect because it says here that she becomes more pleased with her work every hour instead of tiring of it. So she's not getting bored, she's becoming more fascinating with it. So B is incorrect. C. Mary is clearing out the garden to create a space to play. This is incorrect because she doesn't clear out the garden to create a space to play. Her clearing out the garden is a sort of play for her. So C is incorrect. D. Mary feels very satisfied when she's taking care of the garden. This is correct because it says that she becomes pleased with her work every hour, and that she's pulling up weeds steadily. So she's taking care of the garden while being more fascinated and pleased with it. So D. Mary feels very satisfied when she's taking care of the garden is correct. So the correct choice is D. What choice best states the main idea of the text? Believing that living in an impractical space can heighten awareness and even improve health, conceptual artists Madeline Jins and Shusaku Arakawa designed an apartment building in Japan to be more fanciful than functional. A kitchen counter is chest-high on one side and knee-high on the other. A ceiling has a door to nowhere. The effect is disorienting but invigorating. After 4 years there, filmmaker Nobu Yamakoa reported significant health benefits. So choice A says, Although inhabiting a home surrounded by fanciful features, such as those designed by Jinns and Arakawa, can be rejuvenating, it is unsustainable. This is incorrect because although it is described as being rejuvenating or invigorating, the text doesn't describe the home design as being sustainable or not. So A is incorrect. B. Designing disorienting spaces like those in the Jinns and Arakawa building is the most effective way to create a physically stimulating environment. This is incorrect because although it does say that living in an impractical space can heighten awareness, it doesn't say this is the most effective way to create a physically stimulating environment. So B is incorrect. C. As a filmmaker, Yamakawa has long supported the designs of conceptual artists such as Jinns and Arakawa. This is incorrect because the focus of the text isn't on Yamakawa's views of the designs, it's more so on the fact that living in impractical spaces can heighten awareness and improve health. So C is incorrect. D. Although impractical, the design of the apartment building by Jinns and Arakawa may improve the well-being of the building's residents. This seems to be correct because the first sentence itself shows that living in impractical space can heighten awareness and improve health, and the rest of the passage supports this. So D is the correct choice. What choice best states the main purpose of the text? The following text is from Maggie Pogue Johnson's 1910 poem, Poet of Our Race. In this poem, the speaker is addressing Paul Laurence Dunbar, a black author. Thou, with a stroke of mighty pen, hast told of joy and mirth, and read the hearts and souls of men as cradled from their birth. The language of the flowers, thou hast read them all, and in the little book responded to thy call. So choice A says, to praise a certain writer for being especially perceptive regarding people and nature. So this seems to be correct because here it says, and read the hearts and souls of men, and he knows the language of the flowers. So it shows that he comprehends a great deal, or is perceptive, regarding people and nature. So A seems to be the correct answer. B. To establish that a certain writer has read extensively about a variety of topics. This is incorrect because in the passage it doesn't explicitly say that the writer has read extensively about a variety of topics, and it more focuses on his perceptive abilities. So B is incorrect. C. To call to attention to a certain writer's careful and elaborately detailed writing process. This is incorrect because the main purpose of the text is to praise the author, and the text doesn't discuss the writer's careful and elaborately detailed writing process. So C is incorrect. D. To recount fond memories of an afternoon spent in nature with a certain writer. This is incorrect because nothing in this text suggests that they're recounting fond memories of an afternoon spent in nature with a certain writer. So D is incorrect, and the correct choice is A. Which quotation from To You most effectively illustrates the claim? To You is an 1856 poem by Walt Whitman. In the poem, Whitman suggests that he deeply understands the reader, whom he addresses directly, writing blank. So the claim here is that Whitman deeply understands the reader and that he addresses them directly. So choice A says, your true soul and body appear before me. This seems to be correct because here it shows that he directly addresses the reader by saying your, and it shows that he also deeply understands the reader by saying that he sees his true soul and body appear before him. So A seems to be the correct answer. B. Whoever you are, now I place my hand upon you, that you be my poem. This is incorrect because while it does address the reader directly, it doesn't show that he deeply understands the reader. So B is incorrect. C. I should have made my way straight to you long ago. This is incorrect for the same reason as B, because although it does directly address the reader, it doesn't show that he deeply understands the reader. D. Whoever you are, I fear you are walking the walks of dreams. This is incorrect because although it does directly address the reader, and it expresses a concern for the reader, this concern doesn't show that he deeply understands the reader. It's just mere concern for the reader. So the correct answer is A. Which choice best describes data from the table that supports the researcher's claim? A group of researchers working in Europe, Asia, and Oceania conducted a study to determine how quickly different Eurasian languages are typically spoken, in syllables per second, and how much information they can effectively convey, in bits per second. They found that although languages vary widely in the speed at which they are spoken, the amount of information languages can effectively convey tends to vary much less. Thus, they claim that two languages with very different spoken rates can nonetheless convey the same amount of information in a given amount of time. So the claim here is that two languages with different spoken rates can convey the same amount of information in a given time. So choice A says, among the 5 languages in the table, Thai and Hungarian have the lowest rates of speech and the lowest rates of information conveyed. This is incorrect for 2 reasons. Firstly, Thai and Hungarian don't have the lowest rates of speech. Vietnamese and Thai have the lowest rates of speech. And this doesn't support the researcher's claim, because it shows that the lowest rates of speech have the lowest information conveyed. So A is incorrect. B. Vietnamese conveys information at approximately the same rate as Spanish does, despite being spoken at a slower rate. This seems to be correct, because Vietnamese is spoken at a rate of speech of 5.3 syllables per second, and Spanish at 7.7 syllables per second, but the rate of information for Spanish is 42 bits per second, and for Vietnamese 42.5. So this shows that despite having different rates of speech, they convey approximately the same information per second. So this supports the claim, and so B seems to be the correct answer. C. Among the 5 languages in the table, the language that is spoken the fastest is also the language that conveys information the fastest. This is incorrect because this doesn't support the researcher's claim. D. Serbian and Spanish are spoken at approximately the same rate, but Serbian conveys information faster than Spanish does. This is incorrect because Serbian does not convey information faster than Spanish does. So the correct answer is B. Which choice best describes data from the graph that weakens the student's conclusion? To investigate the effect of lizard predation on spider populations, a student in biology class placed spiders in 2 enclosures, one with lizards and one without it, and tracked the number of spiders in the enclosure for 30 days. The student concluded that the reduction in the spider population count in the enclosure with lizards by day 30 was entirely attributable to the presence of the lizards. So the claim here is that the reduction in spider population in the enclosure with lizards was entirely due to the presence of the lizards. So A says the spider population count was the same in both enclosures on day 1. This is incorrect because this doesn't weaken the student's conclusion, it merely states a fact. So A is incorrect. B. The spider population count also substantially declined by the day 30 in the enclosure without lizards. This seems to be correct because this weakens the student's conclusion, because the student's conclusion is that the reduction in spider population was entirely attributable to the presence of lizards, but the fact that the spider population also substantially declined by day 30 in the enclosure without lizards shows that lizards weren't the only reason that the spider population decreased. So B seems to be the correct answer. C. The largest decline in the spider population count in the enclosure with lizards occurred from day 1 to day 30. This is incorrect because this doesn't weaken the student's conclusions, it merely states a fact. So C is incorrect. D. The spider population count on day 30 was lower in the enclosure with lizards than in the enclosure without lizards. This is incorrect because this doesn't weaken the student's conclusions, but the fact that the spider population in the enclosure without lizards decreased so substantially shows that the reduction in spider population wasn't entirely due to the presence of lizards. So D is incorrect, and the correct choice is B. Which choice most logically completes the text? Although military veterans make up a small portion of the total population of the United States, they occupy a significantly higher proportion of the jobs in civilian government. One possible explanation for this disproportionate representation is that military service familiarizes people with certain organizational structures that are also reflected in civilian government bureaucracy, and this familiarity thus blank. So choice A says, make civilian government jobs especially appealing to military veterans. So this seems to be correct, because the first sentence discusses how military veterans occupy a high proportion of the jobs in civilian government, and the second sentence serves to explain the reasons for this, and they say that the military service familiarizes people with these organizational structures that are also reflected in civilian government bureaucracy. So this familiarity thus makes civilian government jobs more appealing to military veterans, because they're already familiar with the certain organizational structures used. So A seems to be correct. B. Alters the typical relationship between military service and subsequent career preferences. This is incorrect, because subsequent career preferences here could refer to any career other than civilian government jobs, but this passage is only focused on civilian government jobs, so this is incorrect. C. Encourages non-veterans applying for civilian government jobs to consider military service instead. This is incorrect because the text does not discuss non-veterans at all, so C is incorrect. D. Increases the number of civilian government jobs that require some amount of military experience performed. This is incorrect because the text focuses on why the military veterans have a high proportion of jobs in civilian government, not that these jobs should require some amount of military experience. So D is incorrect. The correct answer is A. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? The city of Pompeii, which was buried in ash following the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, continues to be studied by archaeologists. Unfortunately, as blank attest, archaeological excavations have disrupted ash deposits at the site, causing valuable information about the eruption to be lost. So a key point here is that there's no need for punctuation between the noun researchers and the noun phrase Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn, because that would interrupt the flow of the passage. So A says, researchers, Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn, This is incorrect because, as before, no punctuation is needed, because it would interrupt the flow of the passage. B. Researchers, Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn. This is incorrect for the same reason as A, because no punctuation is needed here. C. Researchers Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn. This seems to be correct because there is no punctuation, and it properly fits the text, making it say, as researchers Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn attest. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. Researchers Roberto Scandone, and Christopher Kilburn. This is incorrect because no comma is necessary before the and. So D is incorrect. So the correct answer is C. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Seneca sculptor Mary Watt's blanket art comes in a range of shapes and sizes. In 2004, Watt sewed strips of blankets together to craft a 10 by 13 inch blank. In 2014, she arranged folded blankets in 2 large stacks and then cast them in bronze, creating 2 curving 18-foot tall blue-bronze pillars. So a key point here is that there's 2 independent clauses in the second sentence. The first being, in 2004, Watt sewed strips of blankets together to craft a 10 by 13 inch blank, and the second being, in 2014, she arranged folded blankets into 2 large stacks, and then cast them in bronze, creating 2 curving 18-foot tall blue-bronze pillars. So the proper punctuation here would connect these 2 independent clauses. So choice A says, sampler, later, This is incorrect because a comma here would result in a comma splice, and later isn't a proper conjunction, so this improperly connects the 2 independent clauses. So A is incorrect. B. Sampler, semicolon. This seems to be correct because semicolon properly connects 2 independent clauses, and because the second clause still refers to the same topic as the first clause, a semicolon would fit here. So B seems to be the correct answer. C. Sampler, This is incorrect for the same reason as A, because a comma here would result in a comma splice, and because there's no conjunction, then it does not properly connect the 2 independent clauses. So C is incorrect. D. Sampler, later, This is incorrect because the same reason as C and A, because these commas will result in a comma splice, and later isn't a proper conjunction. So D is incorrect. And the correct answer is B. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Gathering accurate data on water flow in the United States is challenging because of the country's millions of miles of blank. The volume and speed of water at any given location can vary drastically over time. So a key point here is that there are two coordinated noun phrases, the first being the country's millions of miles of waterways, and the second being and the fact. So when there's two coordinated noun phrases like this, no punctuation is needed because that would interrupt the flow of the passage. So choice A says waterways and the fact that, comma. This is incorrect because as before, no punctuation is needed, and generally commas don't appear after that. So A is incorrect. B. Waterways, comma, and the fact that, comma. This is incorrect because as before, no punctuation is needed, and these comma placements don't logically make sense. So B is incorrect. C. Waterways, comma, and, comma, the fact that. This is incorrect because the commas before and after and don't make sense, and that no punctuation is needed because it would interrupt the flow of the passage. So C is incorrect. D. Waterways and the fact that. No punctuation. So this seems to be correct because there's no need for punctuation here, as that would interrupt the flow of the passage, and because these are two coordinated noun phrases. So D is the correct answer. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? In assessing the films of Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, blank have missed his equally deep engagement with Japanese artistic traditions such as no theater. So a key point here is that the word after this comma here would highlight the noun of the phrase, and the noun here seems to be critics, because it is the critics that assess Kurosawa's theater. So choice A says, many critics have focused on Kurosawa's use of Western literary sources, but... So this seems to be correct because it properly puts critics after the comma, highlighting that the critics is the noun of the sentence, and the use of but properly shows how they use Western literary sources, but they don't regard the Japanese sources and traditions. So A seems to be the correct answer. B. Kurosawa's use of Western literary sources has been the focus of many critics, comma, who. This is incorrect because this results in a dangling modifier, where it implies that the Western literary sources are the ones that are assessing Kurosawa's work. But this is incorrect because it is the critics who are assessing it, not the Western literary sources. So B is incorrect. C. There are many critics who have focused on Kurosawa's use of Western literary sources, comma, but they. This is incorrect because like B, this results in a dangling modifier, where there is improperly placed right after the comma, and this would imply that it is there that are assessing Kurosawa's work, but this is not the case. So C is incorrect. D. The focus of many critics has been on Kurosawa's use of Western literary sources, semicolon, they. So this is incorrect because this, like B and C, results in a dangling modifier, where it implies that it is the focus of the many critics that assess the work of Kurosawa. Additionally, the semicolon placed here is not correct because it would improperly disrupt the flow of the sentence. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is A. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Joshua Hinson, director of the Language Revitalization Program of the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma, helped produce the world's first indigenous language instructional app, comma, Chickasaw blank, Chickasaw TV in 2010, semicolon, and Rosetta language course in Chickasaw, comma, in 2015. So a key point here is that this is a complex series, meaning that each individual element must be separated by a semicolon. So choice A says basic, semicolon, in 2009, comma, an online television network, semicolon. This is incorrect because the semicolon usage here is incorrect, where the semicolon should be used after 2009 to show that the Chickasaw Basic was created in 2009, and there's no need for semicolon after network, because then that would incorrectly split the sentence an online television network, Chickasaw TV, in 2010. So A is incorrect. B. basic, semicolon, in 2009, comma, an online television network, comma. This is incorrect for the same reason as A, because there's no semicolon here after basic is incorrect, whereas it should be placed after 2009, and the comma here is incorrect because this is a complex series, so the elements must be separated by a semicolon, not a comma. So B is incorrect. C. Basic, comma, in 2009, semicolon, an online television network. This seems to be correct because the comma properly separates Jigsaw Basic from the time it was created in 2009. The semicolon properly separates the elements in the complex series, and the comma here properly separates the online television network Jigsaw TV in 2010. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. Basic, comma, in 2009, comma, an online television network, comma. This is wrong because it doesn't include any semicolons in the first place, and semicolons are needed to separate the elements in a complex series. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is C. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? A group of ecologists led by Axel Mithofer at the Max Planck Institute for Chemical Ecology in Germany examined the defensive responses of two varieties of the sweet potato, blank TN57, which is known for its insect resistance, and TN66, which is much more susceptible to pests. So a key point here is that there are two parts of this sentence. One is the main clause, which is from a group of ecologists to the sweet potato, and the supplementary phrase, which is from the TN57 to pests. So the supplementary phrase expands or elaborates on information introduced in the main clause, so the proper punctuation here would connect these two parts of the sentence. So option A says plant period. This is incorrect because if a period were to be placed here, then the second sentence would start from TN57, but the second sentence cannot start from this phrase. So A is incorrect. B. Plant semicolon. This is incorrect because a semicolon is used to connect two independent clauses, but in this case there's only one independent clause and one supplementary phrase, so a semicolon cannot be used here. C. Plant. This is incorrect because there's no punctuation to connect the main clause with the supplementary phrase, so C is incorrect. D. Plant colon. This is correct because a colon can be used to elaborate on information discussed earlier, and if it were to be used here, it would properly describe how the TN57 and TN66 are two varieties of the sweet potato, so D is the correct choice. What choice completes the text with the most logical transition? When, in the 1800s, geologists first realized that much of Earth had once been covered by great sheets of ice, some theorized that the phenomena was cyclical, occurring at regular intervals. Each ice age is so destructive, though, that it largely erases the geological evidence of its predecessor. Blank. Geologists were unable to confirm the theory of cyclical ice ages until the 1960s. So the second sentence discusses how the ice age is so destructive that it erases evidence of the preceding ice age. And the third sentence discusses how the geologists were unable to confirm the theory of cyclical ice ages until the 1960s. So the proper transition here would show how the information in the third sentence, that they were unable to confirm the theory of cyclical ice ages, was because the ice ages would destroy the evidence of its preceding ice age. So choice A says hence. This seems to be correct because hence correctly implies that the information in the third sentence is a consequence or a result of the information in the preceding sentence. So this makes sense. So A seems to be the correct answer. B. Moreover. This is incorrect because moreover implies that the information in this sentence, the third sentence, will be on the same topic of the information in the preceding sentence. But this would imply that the information in the third sentence is about the destructiveness of the ice age, but instead it's about how geologists were unable to confirm the theory of the cyclical ice ages until the 1960s. So B is incorrect. C. Nevertheless. This is incorrect because nevertheless implies that the information in the third sentence is disregarding the information in the previous sentence. But instead of this, the information in the third sentence is a consequence of the information in the second sentence. So C is incorrect. D. Next. This is incorrect because next implies that there is a process or a series of steps, but this is not true. because the third sentence is basically the consequence of the information in the second sentence. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is A. The student wants to compare the lengths of the two rail tunnels. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The Seikan Tunnel is a rail tunnel in Japan. It connects the island of Honshu to the island of Hokkaido. It is roughly 33 miles long. The Channel Tunnel is a rail tunnel in Europe. It connects Folkestone, England to Coquelles, France. It is about 31 miles long. A. Some of the world's rail tunnels, including one tunnel that extends from Folkestone, England to Coquelles, France, are longer than 30 miles. This is incorrect because it does not compare the length of two rail tunnels, it just says that some of the rail tunnels are longer than 30 miles. So A is incorrect. B. The Seikan Tunnel is roughly 33 miles long, while the slightly shorter Channel Tunnel is about 31 miles long. This seems to be correct because it properly compares the length of two rail tunnels, the Seikan Tunnel, which is 33 miles long, and the Channel Tunnel, which is 31 miles long. And it says how the Seikan Tunnel is slightly larger, or the Channel Tunnel is slightly shorter than the Seikan Tunnel. So B seems to be the correct answer. C. The Seikan Tunnel, which is roughly 33 miles long, connects the Japanese islands of Honshu and Hokkaido. This is incorrect because, like A, it doesn't compare the lengths of two rail tunnels, and this answer choice simply says that the Seikan Tunnel is 33 miles long, and it connects two different places together. So C is incorrect. D. Both the Seikan Tunnel, which is located in Japan, and the Channel Tunnel, which is located in Europe, are examples of rail tunnels. This is incorrect because while it does discuss two rail tunnels, it does not compare their lengths. It simply says that it simply describes two examples of rail tunnels. So D is incorrect, and the correct choice is B. Student wants to specify the reason the Pleiades' appearance has changed. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Ancient Native American and Australian Aboriginal cultures described the Pleiades star clusters as having 7 stars. It was referred to as the Seven Sisters in the mythology of ancient Greece. Today, the clusters appear to have only 6 stars. 2 of the stars have moved so close together that they now appear as one. So option A says, ancient Native American and Australian Aboriginal cultures described the Pleiades, which was referred to in Greek mythology of the Seven Sisters, as having 7 stars. This is incorrect because this does not specify the reason why the Pleiades' appearance has changed. It does not describe the appearance of the Pleiades, it only describes how it has 7 stars. So A is incorrect. B. Although once referred to as the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades' appears to have only 6 stars today. This is incorrect because although it describes how the Pleiades' appearance has changed, it does not specify the reason why its appearance has changed. So B is incorrect. C. In the time since ancient cultures described the Pleiades as having 7 stars, two of the cluster's stars have moved so close together that they now appear as one. This seems to be correct because it properly specifies the reason why the Pleiades' appearance has changed, which is that 2 of the cluster's stars have moved so close together that they now appear as one. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. The Pleiades has 7 stars, but 2 are so close together that they appear to be a single star. This is incorrect because this does not specify the reason why the Pleiades' appearance has changed. It simply says that they had 7 stars, but 2 of them appear so close together that it looks as one star. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is C. The student wants to emphasize fossil significance. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Pinnipeds, which include seals, sea lions, and walruses, live in and around water. Pinnipeds are descended not from sea animals, but from 4-legged, land-dwelling carnivores. Canadian paleobiologist Natalia Ryszbinski recently found a fossil with 4 legs, webbed toes, and the skull and teeth of a seal. Ryszbinski refers to her rare find as a transitional fossil. The fossil illustrates an early stage in the evolution of pinnipeds from their land-dwelling ancestors. So choice A says, Canadian paleobiologist Natalia Rybinski's fossil has the skull and teeth of a seal, which, like sea lions and walruses, is a pinniped. This is incorrect because this does not emphasize the fossil's significance, it merely describes the fossil's characteristics. So A is incorrect. B. Pinnipeds are descended from four-legged land-dwelling carnivores. A fossil that resembles both was recently found. This is incorrect for the same reason as A, because it does not emphasize the fossil's significance, it merely describes pinnipeds' ancestry and shows how a fossil connects the pinnipeds to their ancestors. So B is incorrect. C. Having four legs but the skull and teeth of a seal, the rail fossil illustrates an early stage in the evolution of pinnipeds from their land-dwelling ancestors. This seems to be correct because this emphasizes the fossil's significance, which is that it represents an early stage in the evolution of pinnipeds from their land-dwelling ancestors. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. A transitional fossil was recently found by paleobiologist Natalia Rybinski. This is incorrect because it does not emphasize the fossil's significance, it merely describes the fossil as being a transitional fossil. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is C. The student wants to emphasize a difference between the two portraits. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Gaspar Enriquez is an artist. He specializes in portraits of Mexican Americans. A portrait is an artistic representation of a person. Enriquez completed a painting of the sculptor Luis Jimenez in 2003. He completed a drawing of the writer Rodolfo Anaya in 2016. So choice A says, the portraits or artistic representations of Luis Jimenez and Rodolfo Anaya were both completed by Enriquez in the early 2000s. This is incorrect because this does not emphasize a difference between the two portraits. Rather, it shows a comparison or a similarity between the two, which is that they were both completed by Enriquez in the early 2000s. So A is incorrect. B. Enriquez has completed portraits of numerous Mexican Americans, including sculptor Luis Jimenez and writer Rodolfo Anaya. This is incorrect because this does not describe the difference between the two portraits. It simply states that Enriquez has completed portraits of numerous Mexican Americans. So B is incorrect. C. While both are by Enriquez, the 2003 portrait of Luis Jimenez is a painting, and the 2016 portrait of Rodolfo Anaya is a drawing. This seems to be correct because this does emphasize a difference between the two portraits, where one is a painting and the other is a drawing. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. Luis Jimenez was a Mexican-American sculptor, and Rodolfo Anaya was a Mexican-American writer. This is incorrect because this does not describe a difference between the two portraits. This shows a difference between the two people. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is C. The student wants to emphasize the role a misconception played in the naming of a place. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Las Sergas de Esplandian was a novel popular in 16th century Spain. The novel featured a fictional island inhabited solely by black women and known as California. That same century, Spanish explorers learned of an island off the west coast of Mexico. They called it California after the island in the novel. The island was actually a peninsula now known as Baja California, Lower California, which lies to the south of the U.S. state of California. So choice A says, the novel Las Sergas de Esplandian featured a fictional island known as California. This is incorrect because this does not describe a misconception, nor does it describe the role of this misconception in the naming of a place. So A is incorrect. B. To the south of the U.S. state of California lies Baja California, originally called California after a fictional place. This, like A, is incorrect because it did not describe a misconception or how it played a role in the naming of a place. It simply describes Baja California and how it was called California before. So B is incorrect. C. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers learned of a peninsula off the west coast of Mexico and called it California. This, like A and B, is incorrect because it did not describe the role of a misconception in the naming of a place. So C is incorrect. D. Thinking it was an island, Spanish explorers called a peninsula California after an island in a popular novel. This is correct because it shows that the misconception is that the Spanish explorers thought it was an island, but it was actually a peninsula, and so this resulted in them calling it California after the popular island in a novel. So D is the correct answer. The student wants to emphasize a similarity between the two paintings. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. In 1851, German-American artist Emanuel Lutz painted Washington crossing the Delaware. His huge painting, 149 by 255 inches, depicts the first U.S. president crossing the river with soldiers in the Revolutionary War. In 2019, Cree artist Kent Monkman painted Mistikaosiwak, Wooden Boat People, Resurgence of the People. Monkman's huge painting, 132 by 264 inches, was inspired by Lutz's. It portrays indigenous people in a boat rescuing refugees. So, answer choice A says Monkman, a Cree artist, finished his painting in 2019. Lutz, a German artist, completed his in 1851. This is incorrect because this does not describe a similarity between the two paintings. It simply describes how one painting was finished in 2019 and the other in 1851. So A is incorrect. B. Although Monkman's paintings was inspired by Lutz's, the people and actions the two paintings portray are very different. This is incorrect because this describes a difference between the two paintings rather than a similarity, and this is that the people and actions of the two paintings portray are very different. So B is incorrect. C. Lutz's and Monkman's paintings are both huge, measuring 149 by 255 inches and 132 by 264 inches, respectively. This seems to be correct because it shows that there's a similarity between the two paintings, which is that they're both very large. So C seems to be the correct answer. D. Lutz's paintings depicts Revolutionary War soldiers, while Monkman's depicts indigenous people and refugees. This is incorrect because this, like B, shows a difference between the two paintings rather than a similarity, which is that one painting depicts Revolutionary War soldiers while the other depicts indigenous people and refugees. So D is incorrect. The correct answer is C.